We are live, and of course, for SCW Live Q&A, get your questions in nice and early. The big topic, though, coming in today, will Cody Rhodes defeat Roman Reigns to become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion at WrestleMania 39? It felt like last night on Monday Night Raw, everything kicked off with the Rhodes-Roman Reigns rivalry. Of course, we had Cody in the ring. He did do it in a clever way, though. He suggested perhaps he'll be facing Sami Zayn at WrestleMania 39. Of course, that match with Zayn and Reigns has been announced for the Elimination Chamber. But at the same time, Paul Heyman came out. And from there onwards, we got what I thought was absolute beauty. We had the story of how Dusty was broke, of course, with ECW being brought in by Paul Heyman. That, of course, gave the money, gave Dusty his confidence back, how Cody would never forgive him, never forget that, should I say, and always is going to be grateful for it. Heyman was almost teared up. He was like, "You're good. You're very good." And he sort of went to give a reply, explaining, how, Cody is done this on his own, how Dusty at the Performance Center made the likes of a Seth Rollins, a Becky Lynch, a Bayley, and a Roman Reigns, bringing out Roman especially. And then, of course, just when we thought we've had this really heartfelt back and forward with Paul Heyman and Cody, just sort of saying, yes, we've got this at WrestleMania. Of course, Paul Heyman has to just switch things up a little bit and said, yes, Cody, Dusty's last words to me were that you're my favorite son. Sorry, Dustin. But at the same time, he said, that with Roman Reigns, he wishes was the son that he had. And of course, that's when things have become personal. Cody said, look, ultimately, people want to make this personal. I'm going to have to go and take those championships personally with a handshake with Paul Heyman. For me, it was incredible. It was a great way to really start off the Rhodes-Roman Reigns rivalry, because let's be fair, wrestling has more than one royal family. And of course, we're talking about the bloodline. Roman Reigns, of course. Before that, we've got the Usos, The Rock, Rikishi, Aka Sika. We've had so many people in amongst that bloodline previously, and now we've got obviously with Cody, we've got Dustin, we've got Dusty Rhodes. The story of the American Dream, can that be fulfilled? The prophecy of a Rhodes becoming a WWE champion, the first Rhodes ever to main event at WrestleMania. It's proper special. It feels the real deal. NXSteve, you are a guest today. Thank you so much for coming on. I really have been so excited all day to talk to you about Cody Rhodes and Paul Heyman. We're starting that road to WrestleMania, and ultimately, I wonder what it's going to lead to. Is Cody going to become the world champion?
First of all, Steve, as usual, thanks for having me on the channel. It's always a pleasure to come on and chat wrestling with you and just absolutely shoot the breeze with you. But man, we were saying just before, whoever is writing these promos, if someone is writing these promos, just needs a pay raise before, because 2 weeks ago, I was all in on that. It should be Sami that takes that title for Roman. But man, that promo last night, it just makes sense now that it has to be Cody. I cannot, my biggest fear is that he won't win it. My honest to God, I still, if it's Roman, he's been champ for 900 plus days or however long it is now. And it's like, imagine they do all this, get to Mania, and then Cody still doesn't win that title. And that's my genuine biggest fear with it. Because it's like, how does he redeem himself if he doesn't win it at Mania?
That's the big question you're asking there. And obviously, we've got a lot of comments come flying in already. Thank you, everyone. They will be with you in a couple of seconds' time. Literally, as you just said there, what if Cody doesn't do it? What would go next? But with here, we know, obviously, like you said, the Sami train that's been going off in the rumor mill today. This has been done last night on Raw purely because of everything that's been going on with Sami Zayn. We need to carefully remove and end the Sami storyline to get to the Cody one. And it's just, wow, it's incredible what they did last night, because the Sami storyline has been amazing. We've said it's the best storyline in wrestling, but bar none for a long time. Some may even say a couple of decades. I've seen with some people on Twitter and other YouTube channels. And in my opinion, I would say that it's a great storyline, but this Cody and Roman one, if it's kicked off like this, it has the potential to rival it. We've said already, Sami Zayn, they've got the championship match for Sami and Roman at Elimination Chamber. Spoiler alert, I'm doing a Paul Heyman for you. Yes, I think Roman Reigns is going to retain that championship. It seems like it makes the most sense. But now we've got Rhodes and Roman, like you say. what's going to happen? There's so many twists and turns they can go with this. We're pulling already with the Dusty card. I'm going to say to you very quickly, is that card the only card that's going to be played, or do they have to make sure that they play other cards to keep people invested with this Cody storyline? Because at the moment, there will still be some people out there who are going, Sami, Sami, Sami. I want Sami Zayn in that WrestleMania main event.
I think Chamber's going to be the big deciding factor because this is all going to be down to Jey Uso essentially. Because I think however they play Jey, and he's going to be part of that main event picture in the Chamber, and they're going to have to do something. Because my thing is now is that I can see it being KO and Sami versus the Usos for the tag titles at Mania. 100%, that's what they're going to go with. It's just how they do it, and they basically have to try and make Jey on par with Roman as one of the biggest heels, because they've got to give Sami a reason to want them tag titles at Mania rather than that WWE Undisputed World Universal Championship.
Absolutely. And of course, there is that question then of where it leads to afterwards. Maybe this is the starting point of what will be a launching pad for Sami in, say, 6 months from now or another year from now. There is that potential where another day could be the right day. But this Cody story has been brewing since he returned. Yes, he was out injured, but he made the big return at the Rumble. Look, everything Cody has done so far since coming back has felt main event. It has felt like the real deal. I love the entrance. I love the pyro. I've loved the promo work. It just feels like it's a natural fit. It feels like we genuinely have a top star back. Monday Night Raw feels refreshed as well because he's back. And for me, I think this can kick into another gear. We will answer, or I will give my answer to that question that I've put in the title very shortly. But you just said there, the idea of Roman Reigns, what if he doesn't do it? I feel that we're so close to Roman becoming 1,000 days as Universal Champion. The WWE Championship is different. That would be a full calendar year. If it's for the WWE title, I would be convinced Cody is winning it without any shadow of a doubt. But the fact that Roman is so close to 1,000 days, think about it, everyone. That's 4 digits, 1,000 days as Universal Champion. It just feels like, goodness, would they really do it here, or are they going to wait to another day?
That's the $1 million question. What are they going to do? What tricks are they going to pull out the bag to pull this off? Because it's so every week it just seems to be different. Like, I'm actually enjoying watching Raw a lot more because it seems to be that everything is developing a lot more on this show than it used to be. Like, what I watched last night's show, and I was like, there's so much progression on this one show. And I sat there and thought about it, and I was like, it's such an amazing thing to see stories develop and stuff going towards. And it's not just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And it's so fresh to see. But I don't know, man. This is the thing. Since Triple H has taken over, like if this was Vince still in charge, you'd be like, yeah, Vince is probably going to win at Mania. Sorry, Roman's going to win at Mania. That's just the Vince McMahon booking. But I genuinely just do not know. And then with not Vengeance Day, Saturday night, to have 3 titles change in one night, I thought was a shocker because that's not something normal for NXT. We haven't seen that in a long time where takeovers get a lot of title changes. So it's really hard to put a call at this minute.
And I think that's what makes it so exciting. But the problem is, I've put the question in the title. It's our main topic, so NXT. You've got about 2 minutes to decide. At this early stage, is Cody going to do it or not? Because I'm going to go to our chat. I'm also going to encourage our chat to start throwing in the questions. Could be anything wrestling related. Could be to do with Cody. Could be to do with Roman. Could be WWE in general. We've got Raw last night, SmackDown coming up, Elimination Chamber as well. You could even switch things up. Go AEW. Go Impact Wrestling. Go for it for us in the chat and get your questions in nice and early to receive a shout out as well. But first off, let's say hello to Too Sweet Kyle from On the Mark Wrestling Podcast. Good evening, gentlemen. Hope all is well. Looking forward to the stream and thank you for coming in and checking us out nice and early. Nubico giving us the pick here. I believe that Cody Rhodes will main event WrestleMania 39 and beat the Tribal Chief. That's right. Night 2. It's already proclaimed the main event, but he believes that Cody Rhodes will be the champion at the end of it. Too Sweet Kyle as well will be at WrestleMania 39. So I'm loving the fact you got your stake in here as well. It's Cody's story and Cody's moment. I love Sami, but it just makes sense for Cody to be the one. Loving that there. And it does go on also to say, NXSteve, I'll pay you to create a custom background for OTM.
You don't have to pay me, man. Just let me know what you want on it, and because I can't give you a time frame. It's just a case of when it has and when I have time. And I've got no time at the minute, but yeah, just message me, man, on Twitter or whatever, and I'll see what I can sort out for you.
There you go, business sorted for you there. And it goes on to say also that I have and always will acknowledge the tribal chief, but if Cody doesn't beat him at Mania, I'd be a little disappointed and, in my opinion, a missed opportunity. Would you guys agree? So that's the perfect comment there to put us on the spot. So first off, let's answer that question. Is Cody Rhodes, will he defeat Roman Reigns to become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion at WrestleMania 39?
I'm going to say yes. On for two reasons. One, who else is there to take that title off of him? But two, just like Carl says, it's Cody's time, and it's all about him and winning that title. And someone at some point needs to do it. And who better than Cody? He has the perfect background story. Everything just seems, especially after last night, everything just seems to be tying in nicely. The whole backstory with Dusty and Paul Heyman. This just seems to be like this should be the time. I imagine it's Triple H's first Mania. I think he's going to go all out, and I think this is going to be like, it's going to be a Mania to remember.
Yeah, I think he wants to make sure that it's a Mania to remember. And look, to be fair, the other name right now there is Sami Zayn. There is no other name that you'd throw out there. And of course, he's getting his opportunity at the Elimination Chamber. Those titles are not going to be split. So I'm going to agree with Too Sweet Kyle and say it would be a missed opportunity. It feels like a real deal at this point. I do agree at this moment, and I can't believe I'm saying it for the first time in a long time. I think Cody's going to do it, but not really that. I think Roman's losing those championships. I think it's going to happen. So, yeah, my prediction right now, I'm going all in on Cody to do it. And yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what will happen. But my other reasoning for it, I think that the night after, or should we say the SmackDown after, I think that the bloodline turn on Roman Reigns and that will write him off TV for the start of the summer. And I think when he comes back, I think that Solo or Jay, one or the other, but Solo could be that guy if they wanted to. But Jay seems to be the right-hand man, so I think Jay will be the one leading the line. I think that they will be leading the bloodline. They will be the three-man group that will be doing it until Roman comes back, and that's so you can revisit and finish that storyline off at SummerSlam, because I think Roman will be away for that long. So that's my where I think it's going to go. Be interesting where it will go, but yeah, I do think that Cody Rhodes is going to do it. We'll go back into the comments. First off, quick say quick hello to KXI. Says, yo, Steves, what's going on? We are doing very well. Thank you for checking that stream. And as well, go back in there with Two Split Says, not sure if you've answered this in past streams, but do you think AEW needs a WrestleMania type stadium show? That's the all be all. Do you know what? I like this question a lot, but NXT, I'm going to let you take this one first. Do you think that AEW needs that show, or do they already have it?
I think if they were to do it, they could pull it off. I just think they'd rather just do their own thing. I mean, I think the whole point of AEW is to be different from WWE and give a different product and a different feel. I mean, they could, like I said, they could do it. I don't think they want to, if I'm honest. I think the thing they worry about mostly is selling it out. That's probably the biggest fear they will have with depending on where it is. Say, for instance, it was in Chicago. Yeah, they'd probably sell it out, no problem. But they obviously own Jacksonville, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So there's a stadium already there to do something like it. But again, it's just a worry of actually selling it all out.
I mean, the thing is, obviously, the show they have the show all out as well. I think they bet all in, of course, back then, which was 10,000. That was an arena show, of course. They have a stadium show once a year at the moment with the Arthur Ashe Stadium, of course, with the arguably their biggest dynamite of the year. I think we could all agree that's the big dynamite of each and every calendar year in September. But like you say, a WrestleMania type stadium show. For me, I think they need it, but I don't think that they need to rush into it. I think, like you said there, they're doing their own thing. They're creating themselves. I do think that the demand could be there. But like we said, when it comes to stadium type shows, I mean, if we're talking like what WWE is doing, obviously with WrestleMania, that's a big sort of arena to fill. But if you're talking like, say, for, like we said, Arthur Ashe, if they want to do a special show there, maybe like you said, a baseball stadium or something like that, maybe would be quite fitting somewhere like in Chicago or something. I know, obviously, the idea if they come to the UK, I believe that from what I heard, it was meant to be like Wembley Arena and stuff like that. But I mean, they could easily do Fulham's football stadium. It's the other business that the Khan family have, soccer for those that want us to refer to the Premier League on that way. But yeah, Craven Cottage would be another one as well. But again, it's not those same heights. It would be almost half of what they could do for like WWE's Clash of the Castle, for example. So it's like it's not at that scale yet, but a company is growing, a company is building, and I think one day, I think they certainly could and need it. But WWE took years themselves. Well, WrestleMania 3 was in a huge, massive stadium, but at the same time, it took a bit of time to get where they needed to get to that sort of position. So, do you reckon it will happen one day for AEW?
I imagine so. I imagine that they'll probably end up taking All Out, making that like essentially their equivalent to WrestleMania. It just needs time. Just hopefully they don't do what WWE did. What was it, WrestleMania 1 or 2, where it was broadcast from 3 different locations?
Yeah, number
As
two.
long as
Yeah.
they don't as long as they don't do that again, I think they'll be all right.
Yeah, it's one of my least favorite WrestleManias of all time, just because it's so messy, literally so messy. But it's not the longest mania if you ever want to go back and check it out. But Super says exactly who else? I can't think of anyone better. Agree with you there. And that's referring, obviously, of Cody being the one to defeat Roman Reigns. We've got KXI says it's Cody's time. He's currently the main character of WWE, the protagonist of WWE, while Roman is the main antagonist. There we go. Thank you very much. Is perfect for him to win. This is why I shouldn't do these shows so late in our time zone. But no, I think that's very well put over there, Bucket. So, what's your take on that?
Yeah, it's like I said a minute ago. My worry is that if Cody doesn't beat him, who? Because they're running out of names, and I think it needs to happen. It gives more options for people going forward. I mean, let's be honest, we want to see a heavyweight champion that's on TV as well a week every while. I know Roman's been doing a lot recently, but Mr. Last Summer, last autumn, he was barely on TV, and it was like you were doing stuff with United States Championship and your IC title, which is great, but you just need your WWE champion. He's supposed to be the box office draw. He's the reason that you sell tickets to these venues for people to turn up to. If you tell them your heavyweight champion is going to be there, people will show up. It's the same with any sport, MMA, boxing, whatever. As long as you put the biggest name on the card, then people will show up. And this is how you sell out venues.
So true. It's so true. And I have to get Eric's comment out very quickly. Thank you, Eric, for joining us. Says Sami should dethrone him. Sami should dethrone him. So there is still, like we said, even after Monday Night Raw last night, there is people now that are probably like, I see it now. I see it with Cody. Some people still feel Sami should be the one. And do you know what? That's perfect to feel though, because I still would be happy with either to do so. It's just the fact that after last night, I think WWE did a great job in now making us feel like actually it's not a bad thing if Cody is the guy to do it. I'm not gonna people shouldn't go out of the way to boo Cody if he goes and does it, but it's just the way that I think WWE are tastefully doing it. We look back to say the Yes Movement. Everyone's made that comparison with Daniel Bryan back in 2014, and you say that with Sami, there is something special here. As we said, that Eric believes he should be the one. And up until like about a week ago, I was always like Sami. The story though is the Usos. That is where it's really linked in. It links in with Roman because he's portrayed Roman here, but he's only been with Roman for like the last month or two properly. He's been with the Usos since last summer, so that's where it kind of becomes. That's where the long time story goes. But at the same time, I like how they've filled in the layers, and I like that last night they thought, well, hang on, we need to find a way to do this where, like we said, it's not going to be like other years where it's been messy, because Daniel Bryan was just left out of the Royal Rumble 2014. They had to sort of throw him in last minute, of course. When you look at this here, Sami wasn't in the Rumble, but that breakup at the end of the show, so people knew what was going on. Now Sami's got the championship match now. It's almost like with Eddie Guerrero, Brock Lesnar 2004 kind of vibes. You've got Will, the underdog person, win the title and go into Mania with the championship. At the same time, then you've got Cody, who does these great promos, but actually acknowledges that it could be Sami he's facing at WrestleMania. Then they've brought out Paul Heyman, and then they've had this, what some people are calling is like a back and forward for the ages. We'll have to see. Time will tell if that will be the case in time, but certainly to put this as a marker for the starting point of Cody and Roman, they've done an incredible job. And Roman wasn't even in attendance.
Yeah, and that's a good feat in itself. The fact that they've been able to build this story without Roman being involved in it. But then again, that you expect that kind of stuff from Paul Heyman. That guy is just amazing at doing things like building pay-per-views. Like who was the one? It was with Samoa Joe, when Samoa Joe was chasing after, was it I think it was Brock at the time, and you had Samoa Joe doing his promos with Heyman. It was just, he was so good at hyping the crowd up for these things. But just going back to the whole Sami thing, what if Sami does win it at Chamber? I'm not being funny. If you want to make a bigger heel out of Roman, let Sami win it at Chamber, and then Roman win it the next night on Raw. Give Sami a one-day reign, because you're going to make him a bigger heel. I'd be up for it. I'd be gutted for Sami having a one-day reign, but I think for an initial shock factor, you could proper do some dirty, dastardly things with Roman the next night on Raw to get that title back.
Roman definitely would gather that heat back. The only question is, though, would Cody lose the special? I mean, of course, he'd have special. We win the World Championships and win a WrestleMania main event, but to the fact that Roman's not been pinned in so long, would that take that away from Cody? Because the person that pins Roman is catapulted to that next level. There's no going back.
Yeah. I mean, I forget about the little detail about him being pinned and stuff. So yeah, it's the thing is as well is, how do they have to be so careful with this main event for Mania, because everyone else who's come up against Roman, there's been some sort of interference from the bloodline, whether it be Sami, whether it be Jay, whether it be Solo, whoever. So I'm interested to see how it will pay off, and how they will, if they do have Cody beat Roman, how they do it with or without any assistance from the bloodline. Like, if bloodline are in it, I want to see how Cody's going to win it. Like, I think the things that help Cody is, like, for instance, his Hell in a Cell match with Seth last year. Those two were dropping finishes on each other like there was no tomorrow, like pedigrees, stomps, whatever. And Cody just kept kicking out. And I think that's really helped Cody's credibility when it comes to Mania.
Absolutely, and it's only going to go levels up. I think when it comes to that main event, it's going to be very special. But going into our next question from Two Sweet Kyle says, if Cody does dethrone Roman, who are some of the challenges you'd like to see to face Cody? He feels that Gunther feud would be money. SummerSlam would be perfect for that, in my opinion. But what do you feel with Cody? Who would you like to see? I think Gunther's a great shout.
If Randy isn't out, I'd like to see Randy come back, because I think there's a story there that can be told as well, because obviously those two have history with Legacy. I think that would be really interesting. But then if you read reports that apparently this week they were saying that Randy might be done and he might not be returning, so hopefully he's not. But for me, I think that would be a good place to start with Cody on his first defense as champion.
Oh, it would be lovely to go, like you said there, go for it. And obviously, we're going through one sort of rich family history as well. We're talking about royal families of wrestling, Orton, a third generation superstar in himself as well. So there's a lot of history and a lot of lineage you can work with that. I think Jey Uso could be a first contender, to be honest. Actually, if Roman's away, even if I said, I predicted they go and take Roman out, Roman returns as that babyface in the summer, you can have the situation of, well, this titles need to be back in the bloodline, and the right hand man, or perhaps even Solo, who's still not been pinned at this point, could be great people to go against Cody. Yeah, I mean, there are some great challenges out there. I mean, they could always do the Seth thing again. There's countless people out there I think would make great rivals. But I think even Roman still has some great challenges. But Sami Zayn, of course, I mean, it would be face versus face. You could risk people turning on Cody. It could be the only problem with that. But yep, there's lots of different options out there. KXI says Gunther, Seth Rollins, Bobby Lashley, Logan Paul, Finn Balor, who, in my opinion, I believe he should drop it to. Is that referring to Cody, or is that referring to?
I think that's Finn. I think that's opponents for Cody. So he reckons that Cody could face all these people, and Balor should be the one he loses it to.
Oh, I like it. Okay, well, do you know what? Balor would be a good shout if that was the case, because yeah, I mean, he's on a roll this year. He's done very well since being part of the Judgment Day.
He has.
Eric goes on to ask, where do you think that leaves Sami? I feel like giving him the tag titles, I like giving someone gets better when someone is bleeding everywhere. I'm not sure I've read that correctly, but what do you think it leaves Sami after if he was to lose to Roman? We mentioned about the tag titles.
I think. See, I don't think it would be. I think it would actually be a pretty good point to stick him in, because he'd be a case of he's rekindling his friendship with Kevin. If they wanted to, at some point down the line, they can revisit the NXT story they did where Kevin turned on Sami. I think that's a great way to go. You could build that towards Mania next year. That would be a great place to go, especially if you get a heavyweight title involved in that. Because imagine if you put that Universal Championship on KO and then you have Sami beat KO at Mania next year in the main event. I'm all up for that. But I don't think the tag team title is underwhelming for him. It's a case of it's the story more than anything with this one. It's got to be done right. It's got to be they have to. Sammy has to be the one to beat Jay after Sammy's backed him for so long. But this is what Jay needs. Whatever Jay's going to do to Sammy to help Roman retain at the Chamber, it's got to be something so dastardly that Sammy's got to focus on those tag team titles.
Absolutely, especially when we don't see Jay between now and then. I know they're meant to defend the tag titles this week, but on WWE Live events last weekend, it was Jimmy and Solo against Braun and Ricochet. So, what's to say if Jay doesn't turn up this week, they could leave that just that bit longer. Maybe if he does turn up, maybe he turns up with Sami and then actually turns him at the Chamber, like you said. So it really dastardly can really build that story up further. But what's next for Sami? Go on, you go first, then, NXT.
What if Sami turns up to tag with Jimmy?
Oh, well, I mean, Jimmy's turned on him as well.
Yeah, I know. I suppose it'd be stupid, but yeah, crazy thought idea. Jimmy, like if Sammy wants something to do, I just don't know. It's going to be interesting to watch SmackDown on Friday because I'm intrigued now. I want to know where this is going to go, and I want to know how they're going to build this now.
I'm excited. I mean, I think it's a really hot prospect of where this rivalry goes next. Obviously, it's been perfection up to now. Even the idea as well of taking Roman saying taking away from my family. Now we're going to beat you up in front of your family. I want your family and friends. You're in your country, and we're going to take you out at this point. I just want to answer Eric's question because where we're going next. I still don't rule out that he may have a WrestleMania main event this year because, all right, there is the idea of Rhea and Charlotte, but it's not always a guarantee that a Royal Rumble winner main events WrestleMania. And I mean, I think it is one of these two matches that's going to main event night one. So whether people determine that is a main event of a WrestleMania or not. But we've had obviously tag team matches main event WrestleMania. The first WrestleMania, for example, had a tag team match as its main event. But have we ever had the tag team championship main event a WrestleMania show? I don't think that we have, and that could be something that could be unprecedented.
Yeah, I heard this rumor earlier on in the week as well. The idea of Kevin and Sami versus the Usos for the titles in the main event. I think for me, that it'd just be a kick in the teeth for Rhea because for so long now, it's been a case of if you win the Rumble, you main event. And I know in the last couple of years, it's gone on first in some instances instead of last, but that's what made the Rumble special was you were guaranteed a main event at WrestleMania. So I think it'd just be a bit of a kick in the teeth for the women's division because their women's division has been critiqued heavily recently, especially with the things like cancelling the cage match last week between Becky and Bayley, which now thinking about it, I'm fine with because they were able to push it back a week and it actually gave the match more time. I would rather the match we got last night than a 4 or 5 minute cage match, which they would have done last week. So I was okay with it. But like I said, the women's division has been critiqued heavily. And I think if you have Cody win the Rumble and he main events, it should only be fair on Rhea that if she wins the Rumble, that she should main event with Charlotte.
Do you know what I mean? To be fair, it's what I've been saying along. I do believe the Rumble winners should main event, but obviously this story has been so good. You can see why people make that case and argument, and it's going to be interesting to see how we go between now and WrestleMania. It's a fascinating question, and just to say, even after WrestleMania, you mentioned the idea of what they can do with KO. There's Money in the Bank. There's a Royal Rumble next year. If you keep chanting for Sami Zayn, wherever you are, if it's in the arenas, if from home, Twitter, WWE will eventually listen, and they may just give Sami a shot.
I'd like to think that Sami's probably going to be odds-on favourite for that briefcase, that Money in the Bank briefcase. I think depending on what they do, depending on how far, it's Money in the Bank's going to be a couple of months after Mania. I think that would give them an adequate run time with the tag titles. That if you used to put Sami in there, or even still while they're champs, give Sami that briefcase at some point in the next year. Give Roman the title back. Have Sami cash in on Roman. You could even do it that way.
It could be done. It would be amazing to do that story as well there. My early favourite is Gunther, just because we're coming over to the pond here in the UK. And I just think, just imagine Cody just waiting for or anyone waiting with Gunther with a briefcase with those chops. You know that you've got a rough time coming. To speak out, you mentioned the cage match a couple of seconds ago. Says, does Lita get involved in Mania? She did in the cage match last night on Raw. Would love to hear who you'd like to see her face if she was to work at WrestleMania. There has been a couple of things been put on Twitter, so I don't think I can take credit for this. But obviously, Lita coming back last night with Becky Lynch. Damage Control has 3 members. People are suggesting Elimination Chamber. Why not Trish Stratus come in as well? And we have a 6-woman tag team match there. Is that something you'd like to see? And if that was to go forward, could you see Lita and Trish perhaps go for the women's tag titles at WrestleMania?
I would love to see Trish and Lita. Lita, so there you go, mixing the names together there. No, yeah, why not, man? Because for years we screened for women's tag team titles. I think if you was going to make another one-on-one match between Becky and Bayley, then yeah, why not put Trish and Lita in a tag match against Damage Control? I think that'd be great. What a way to put people in seats if you got two Hall of Famers coming back for Mania.
Yeah, exactly, and that would be a good way to do it. The rumors at the moment is Ronda and Shayna against Damage Control, but obviously you've had those two legends in there. That's a good babyface team to have in the mix there. We have another couple of teams to go there. I mean, of course, if Liv Morgan hasn't got a match, maybe you can throw a tag team partner with her. Raquel could be a good shout, for example. Those two going for the tag team titles.
They seem to be building, like they had Candice and Michin last night, sort of almost like in that fatal 4-way qualifier.
True.
There was an even what do you call it, a backstage moment with the two of them with Piper Niven. So they seem to be like discreetly making these women's tag teams. Like they had a couple form or a couple of people team up in the Rumble. So I can feel there's something coming with the women's tag titles, whether it's a tournament or whether it's a multi-team match. I don't know.
Could even be tag team turmoil. We have to wait and see. But
Yeah.
we've got Janice Robles. Is Judgment Day having a segment with Lita next Monday? I think we can quietly say at the moment nothing's been announced. That's what we can say very quickly on that at the moment. KXI says, who should WWE build up as their next top heel once Roman is gone? And should Roman return as a face or a heel? Now, obviously, with my idea there, if the Bloodline were to turn on Roman, I'd have him return as a babyface, but kind of the same style Roman, just the fact that everyone would probably cheer him going forward. But who should be the top heel once Roman is out of the picture?
I tell you what, who I've been loving recently is Grayson Waller of NXT. I think his character work has been unbelievably fantastic. I was really gutted that he didn't win that match on Saturday. But in hindsight, Carmelo Hayes, I'm equally excited for to if he's going to take that title off of Bron Breakker. I'm very excited for that. So I'd like to see him get a call up. Just having a look, I wouldn't say no to Bobby Roode coming back as NXT Bobby Roode because he was a great heel. I think if you want to give someone a half decent wrestler, an opponent for Cody, I think he could be a good shout. Just trying to look at any other names that are kind of on the roster at the minute. Karrion Kross really needs to do something because at the minute he's sort of floundering. LA Knight as well. His character work is great. I would love to see him get a push up as well. And even like put Shinsuke Nakamura back in that main event scene because I feel he's been robbed of a decent heavyweight championship run as well.
Yeah, I would obviously Nakamura get a good run there with the championship. LA Knight, probably my favorite of the names you mentioned. I think LA Knight has got certainly an it factor, a mega star factor, with his character and stuff. His promo work is amazing. But I sound like a broken record on this video. Gunter is going to be my call because once he wins that world championship, I can see him having almost an equally long run as Roman. I really can. I think the guy is. I don't think he's lost the match yet. As he's probably been involved with his lost matches where the other people have been pinned, either Eichner or Ludwig Kaiser. But I don't remember his shoulders being pinned to the match that's coming up to SmackDown.
I think he lost to Ricochet early on when Vince was booking him. I don't think otherwise. I think since Triple H has taken over, I don't think he's lost a singles match. But I'm just going to double check while we talk about it. But yeah, I think that it's I think it's just been a case of Vince was booking him to lose, unfortunately, whereas Triple H has done the smart thing and was booking him to win.
There you go. There you go. Tiswick Cole says he loves the Randy idea. I think it would be quite cool if you could go and revisit that legacy storyline there that you mentioned in NXT. I think it would be quite fun indeed. I do agree with Kyle there for us. And does Jay Uso have problems? At the moment, he seems to have problems with his loyalty to the Bloodline, but I think it's a huge swerve coming your way come Elimination Chamber, Janice. Kate says, haven't the Usos been champs for like 2 years now? I feel like Sami and Kevin winning those titles would be a good consolation prize. Yeah, I mean, the Usos won the SmackDown Tag Team Championships at the first Premium Live event back with fans. So that was Money in the Bank 2021. Don't ask how I remember this stuff. And they won the Raw Tag Team titles from Randy and Riddle, RK Bro, I believe it was shortly after WrestleMania last year. So they have been unified tag team champions also for nearly a year. I want to say something like 10, 11 months. So it's going to feel like a big deal once those titles are dropped. I mean, obviously, they have been the longest reigning tag team champions ever as well. So a team to actually stop that is a big accomplishment.
Yeah, I think that's the whole point in as well with making it Sami and Kevin that take them titles off of them, because it's again another prestigious long reign, and I think it ties in nicely that you've got this story tied around all the four of them. So yeah, that's why I say for me it's got to be Sami and KO at Mania.
Absolutely, I think it would be a good shout for that indeed. Eric says, so I guess so once again, I guess we are going to forget about Sami. Well, we're not forgetting about Sami. Like I said, never forget about Sami. Keep cheering for him. His time and story with Roman here has took him to an absolute another level. Let's be fair, he was nowhere near this a year ago. He's coming out smelling of roses. It's just the case that right now, as much as I would love Sami to win the world title, they're not going to do it. So we just have to keep cheering, we have to keep hoping, and his time will come.
You're going to be completely shocked by this record. Gunter, right, has only lost singles matches on live shows. So he's lost 3 matches since coming up to main event, and all 3 have been on live shows. His last loss on TV was when he lost the NXT Championship to Bron Breakker. I think,
Wow, yeah.
he had a match against Bron Breakker, and that was his last loss, was to Bron Breakker. So he, since April last year, in singles competitions on TV, he's gone undefeated. So yeah, he's building up quite a credible run for himself.
Absolutely, he's had some heck of challenges as well whilst he's been Intercontinental Champion. Nubico says, who do you think should win the Women's Chamber match? The obvious option is Asuka, and I would actually agree with that because of a new character. Definitely got everyone talking about ever since her return at the Royal Rumble. But I will actually, because Nubico's brought it up about the Women's Chamber match, and it's something I did want to talk about on this stream actually. The match last night with Asuka and Chelsea Green was now booked a bit weird for me. It was the one real low point of Raw because Chelsea Green obviously had the 5-second appearance in the Rumble. We get the character of what they're trying to convey here. Asuka came back and felt unstoppable and stuff like that. But Chelsea Green kind of dominated that match. I don't feel that did anything for anyone. It was Chelsea that kind of cost herself the match, and Asuka didn't look as strong as what they had made her look. And I just wonder if that was just WWE being WWE last night.
Do you know what? Now you say that, you're spot on, because I sat there and thought, do you know what? Chelsea Green had a really good showing last night, and I'm like, that's not how that was meant to be booked. Unless Chelsea's meant to be she's going to take someone's spot in the chamber, maybe.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Possibly. That's the only other thing I can logically think of. But yeah, Chelsea Green, I was really impressed by Chelsea Green last night. I was like, this is supposed to be like evil Asuka, and like Chelsea Green dominated for pretty much most of that match, and I was really impressed.
Absolutely. But let's go on to the question there then. Who should, I mean, obviously, we're not actually giving our prediction, I guess, but who should win it? I mean, if you look at the 6 we've got, and we've got Asuka, we've got Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Nikki Cross. Now my brain starts to go a little bit fuzzy.
Liv
Carmella,
Morgan,
of course. Carmella won last
Raquel.
night, and then Natalia, of course, the hometown girl, going to be in there. I mean, to be fair, when we're saying should, it is Asuka is the obvious option, but it's obvious for a reason because I think she should win it. I mean, she's got the new character, she's got the face paint, the menacing look. If she is dominant in that chamber and comes out with the victory on the other side, say she puts away to Liv Morgan or Raquel Rodriguez as the last person with her, that's such a good platform for a match with her and Bianca Belair at WrestleMania. But I mean, that's who I think should win the match. But NXT, do you agree or do you disagree with that?
I think everyone wants Asuka to win it. That's the problem. I think everyone wants Asuka to win it because Asuka's such a fan favorite, and now we've got this new iteration of her character, and people just want to see more of it. But yeah, like you just said, watching Raw last night, not as dominant as what you're expecting them to be. I'm trying to think long run, and I'm trying to think out the 6 of these. If one of these is going to win it and go on to Mania and take that title, character wise, face heel dynamic, Asuka's the only one that makes sense. Credibility wise, Raquel maybe.
A bigger match.
Possibly Carmella, because Carmella is a good name. Like, she's recently come back. Carmella is a great heel, so I think her against Bianca could be a really good like bouncing off each other kind of thing. But I'm just trying to think going forward who's going to carry that title. But yeah, I think Asuka is the favorite.
She has to be at this point. I think if you were going on a runner up, I think Raquel at the moment would seem like a good match there. But Liv Morgan as well, obviously her versus Bianca, I don't think we've had, so that would be good. Liv is a former champion on the SmackDown side, so I think those are the top three options. I do think they're going with the hometown with Natalia being in there. Carmella, of course, like you said, she's just come back, so Carmella could have a chance of it. But Nikki Cross, unfortunately, is there to fill up the numbers. But I mean, if Chelsea Green was to take that spot, that would be quite a fascinating idea. I like that fancy booking idea a lot, that she could take someone's spot. To speak, I was also saying they're loading up the chamber with Canadian-born talent, and I love that. I like the fact that they're going with the hometown pops. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah. And obviously, Canada's a very passionate fan base as well.
That, and I think because obviously they don't get the shows as often as what us in the UK get. Well, it's very rare we get pay-per-views. Like, we haven't had any in since 2012, 2013, and obviously we got Clash last year. We've got Money in the Bank this year. So yeah, it's just a case of getting as much homegrown talent on the card as possible.
Absolutely, and I hope that I'm sure everyone's going to have a great time. And I think for the talent, it's amazing as well to perform in front of family and friends as well. So yeah, it's a special feeling. Eric says, "What about eventually putting the world title on Sami?" Absolutely. I mean, there's no going against it. We've both said for months we want Sami to be the world champion. And it's the thing, they probably may split up the world titles. What's to say that Cody isn't the Raw side and Sami doesn't eventually become the SmackDown side? Because we're probably going to have a draft after WrestleMania. There's been talk they want to split the championships. So, I mean, could that be something that will happen in the future?
To be fair, I think it makes all the sense in the world. As to the question about Sami being world champion, I said it a little while ago, get him to a Money in the Bank and have him cash in on Roman at some point later on in the year. I think a SummerSlam, main event, whenever, Survivor Series, whenever. I think that's the way to make Sami champion and get that same pop and that same effect as you would have got if he'd have beaten Roman at Chamber.
Absolutely, Money in the Bank is always a way of getting special pops. You know, if you look at Liv Morgan's last year, it was incredible when she did it. It was a real sort of like a breakout moment for her. Kate Sight, has Richard taken over your account? What if Zoe Stark debuts in the Elimination Chamber and wins? No, serious note though, Zoe Stark, heck of a talent, obviously. She's ready for Raw SmackDown. If she was to be someone that could fill in a spot, you mentioned the idea of Chelsea Green taking someone's spot. Zoe Stark is ready for the big time.
Yeah, there's a few names in NXT that are just like you can easily see them slotting in on Raw or SmackDown straight away. Zoe Stark is one. Cora Jade, I feel recently hasn't had anything creative, but I think that's more to do with Roxanne being champion, so I think they're going to revisit that. Tiffany Stratton seems to be getting a massive push at the minute on NXT. She's really good. It's a shame people like Nikita Lyons is injured because Nikita has been doing some great stuff as well. So it's an exciting time to see who's going to come up from there. But Zoe Stark, massive fan of Zoe Stark for ages, man. I just can't I'm glad they made her a heel. I think it's something interesting to see with Zoe because she was playing the babyface for far too long.
Yeah, I completely agree. The only thing I would say though, with relevance to this question, it's a Raw or SmackDown after Mania to bring her in, not actually to have her in the WrestleMania Championship match. I don't think the name value is quite there yet.
I think that the Raw after Mania is starting to lose its appeal because we expect this every year and we expect this big debut, but at the minute I'm very few and far in between of big enough names to make a debut. Like when we had, for instance, when Paige debuted on Raw and beat AJ Lee in her debut and won the Divas Championship. There isn't a lot of people on NXT I feel that would get that massive pop at the minute like that.
No, interesting that you make that point there. Obviously, I think Zoe Stark, like you said, as a heel would make a good impression. I think Roxanne Perez has got that in her locker if they were to do it.
Yes, she will do, yeah.
But like you say, it is few and far between at this particular moment. But Eric says, I think it's a fatal four-way: Becky, Lita, Liv, Raquel, and Damage Control, and Ronda and Shayna. I like that. I mean, we've got some names there: Becky and Lita being the team, Liv and Raquel, Damage Control, Ronda, Shayna. That would be fascinating. I mean, obviously, we had to find something for Bayley to do because the rumors are suggesting Becky and Bayley. But obviously, it's an alternative. Then, what would you do with Bayley? Would you put her in a different match? Maybe she finds a way to insert herself into the Raw Women's Championship.
Yeah, like the only thing is it's like we said just a minute ago, she takes out someone and enters herself into the chamber and wins the chamber. That's the only other way I can see it happening at the minute. I think there's some names in the chamber that, like Nikki Cross, I don't understand she was last four in the Rumble. I just think that's a bit of a It's a bit of an easy answer to fill a spot. I would prefer qualifiers and people to get like. I think Nikki coming late in the Rumble, so it's not that hard to be Final Four when you're one of the later entrants. So I'd rather people just earn their shots rather than just be given a position in the chamber.
True that. Although Nia Jax was the last entrant, thankfully, and is not in the chamber. But I totally get where you're coming from. The later number, mate, the poor sausage that came at number 3 in the Rumble, and like you say, they had no chance of qualifying for that spot.
You would have thought that they'd have put like the longer lasting wrestlers in. So, for instance, whoever came in, so Rhea coming at 1, I can't remember who was in at number 2, but
Liv was at 2. Actually, she was runner up. So
I'm saying, yeah. So whoever number 3 was, or whoever had the longest stints, I think should be more deserving of someone who just picks a later number and just lasts till the final 4.
Interesting. Yeah, no, I do see where you're coming from with that entirely. Okay, so this Cross has been so underwhelming. Feels like it would be a cool idea if they sent him to Raw or just gave him a faction. Carrying Cross, like you say, would be fun to see him get a push. I completely agree with this comment. What would you do to fix Carrying Cross? Because it feels like it's not an easy fix, this.
Who did he just fought? Was it Rey Mysterio and lost? Was that what I'm thinking of?
He lost again.
They need to do something with him because when he was on NXT, it was almost like NXT was perfect for him because he was the biggest guy on the roster. Everyone else was smaller than him. You've now put him on Raw and SmackDown, and he's kind of just sort of stuck in the middle. And it's like there's guys bigger than him, so he's not the most intimidating character. I think you just probably need to go more dark and brooding and make him do more stuff that just ties in. Like he's constantly banging on about TikTok. And why don't you go back to how he was when he was in TNA and have him like viciously attack people backstage and do that kind of stuff? Because it worked before. That's how he made himself. That's how he made a household name of himself. So I think they need to do something like that with him.
It was actually exactly what I was going to say. I think they may need to revisit what he's done elsewhere because, like you said, that Carrying Cross or Killer Cross he was there. The promos were psychotic. You looked in the eyes and you saw genuinely someone that was going to win matches and was going to brutalize their opponents. And I think that we need to get that cross. I think maybe one loss too many can maybe create a snap. I think that's what we need from him. But it's going to be interesting to see what they do to try and fix him. Maybe move over to Raw, but like you say, there's some big people over there. Can easily get lost in the shuffle once again.
I think he does need a faction. Like I'm sitting and looking at the roster and I'm like, who would I sit there and put in a faction with Cross? And 2 names that jumped to my head instantly was the Good Brothers, Gallows and Anderson.
Interesting.
So maybe have I just think that those 3 together kind of works. I don't know what, like, you could have a whole story with AJ and then maybe the Good Brothers turn on AJ. Probably wouldn't do it, but I just think it'd be something interesting for him to do. But there's not a lot of names elsewise you could put him in a faction with that makes sense apart from those 2.
Yeah. I mean, I think that could work a lot. I mean, anyone that's perhaps not got any direction. I mean, I'm watching a lot of 99 at the minute, so you've seen stuff like the corporate ministry, stuff like that. It's those sort of people that were lost in the shuffle. Like, obviously, I don't want to say we need a Midian back or anything like that, or a Viscera, but you know where I'm coming from. People that kind of people that are like that have got nothing to do on the roster. That perhaps you don't mind sort of give them a darker character. They're kind of lost creatively. You know, you'd have said, I don't know. Trying to think of someone that's completely lost creatively, not doing anything, but you just put them there on the side of Karrion Kross would be quite interesting. But like you said, those sort of characters. I mean, the Good Brothers, they're sort of menacing of how they were outside of WWE. Bullet Club as well. Would create a good faction with AJ Styles as well. A good feud.
Bronson Reed seems like a Killer Cross kind of, not Bronson Reed, sorry. Dexter Lumis seems like a Killer Cross kind of guy. Even Bronson Reed. Put Bronson Reed and Dexter Lumis with Karrion Kross, and I think that's a great faction there. Lumis is the psychopath that just gets stuff done and never says a word. And then you've got Bronson Reed, who's just like the big guy, the enforcer for him, essentially. I think that's a great faction there.
Yeah, absolutely. I like the sound of that faction. In fact, sign me up for that. I'd be quite well into that. We'll move on to the next one. Kexler says No Guns hasn't been pinned once. He's been booked strong. Even Vince besides the Survivor Series, of course. Yes, of course. The infamous was eliminated about 3 minutes in 2019, which was a bit of a shame.
Yes. Do you know what? I could see that coming when they had that match. I was like, they're going to have Gunther lose first. He's going to be the first guy. Could foresee it, and it just happened. And I was like, so stupid.
It was painful as well to see that. But yeah, Eric Douglas says, I think it has to be Liv or Asuka to win the women's chamber at this point. I think that I would agree that definitely that they seem like two heavy favourites. Absolutely. Maybe Io Sky screws Asuka to set up a WrestleMania match because of their past. Liking that from Eric because they were teasing Asuka and Io Sky for the longest time. Obviously, we're seeing now that Io Sky, obviously still with the tag team titles right now, but it's a match that needs to happen at some point in the future.
Maybe even bring Kyrie back and have a tag match between Damage Control and Asuka and Kyrie, just for a one night only kind of thing. It doesn't even have to be for the titles, just like a good old blood vengeance. That, do you know what I mean? It's 2-on-1. The two of them are constantly beating down Asuka, and you just get Kyrie come back and they just set it loose in the ring.
I like it. There's a lot of history there as well. There. A big thank you to KXI. Look after yourself, and we'll see you very soon. Thank you for checking out the stream. Erica also goes on to say, I feel like that Nikita is the wrestling equivalent of Andrew Luck. Every time she starts to get momentum, she gets injured again. Yeah, she has been very
Yeah.
unlucky with injuries. It's ACL this time, isn't it? So I think she's out for a while this next point.
She's
So
just had an operation, yeah.
yeah, we wish her a very speedy recovery. Maybe Bailey versus Bliss has been an idea that's been thrown out there. I like that idea there. Liv Morgan, again, another name suggested. I did put in my WrestleMania matches actually of the predictions there. Bailey versus Liv, would love to see it. And also Dana Brooke was free. Dana Brooke was number 3 in the Royal Rumble, and of course, yes, she didn't fare too well, but she
Didn't
may
last
have a
very long,
team
no.
there with Emma going forward. We have got two Carl says, hear me out to make the cross more relevant. Drew beats Gunther for the IC title and they revisit the feud and cross. He then beats Drew at SummerSlam. Your thoughts?
If they booked it, fine, but I think there's a lot of damage been done by their matches, especially the old bullwhip match. I think don't get me wrong, it was fine for what it was. It was just very clunky in places. Wasn't the biggest fan of it. They'd have to do something a lot better than what they did last time, but it could, as long as it's done fine, 100% I could see it happening. Just it's got bad history already, and that's what they've got to worry about repeating, unfortunately.
Absolutely, but if the result was put right this time, if you're a Karrion Cross fan, of course, then perhaps maybe it would help things. But I do like this next comment that's come in actually from my prodigy. Thank you for checking out the stream. Believe first comment of the evening. Thinking people like JD McDonough and Dijak would be good in a cross faction. Particularly JD McDonough screams out to me with the psychotic. He's very creepy SOB, isn't he, on NXT? But I am enjoying his work.
JD's the best.
He's very good, very good. But yeah, I like the ideas of that as a faction there. But just to go back onto the IC title, I mean, Cross needing a championship at some point would certainly help, and get a win over Drew, of course, would be helpful as well. But NXT, you look like you got something to say here.
But just to talk about Dijak, do you know he didn't actually break his finger?
No, of course, yeah, that's an awful looking image from the Adventure Day show, and yeah, thankfully,
How?
I
How
don't
do you
know.
not break your finger? Because I looked at it and I'm like, oh man, that's gonna hurt, and it's not broken, and I'm like, how do you correct that? That's just
Yeah.
not right.
No, I don't know. It's going to be interesting with NXT tonight if there's any images of what they may or may not have done since then. But I'm sure Danny D. McDonough's got an idea for it because it seems to fit his gimmick quite well since his name's currently on the screen there. So thank you for that, iProdigy. Shaheen, good to see you in the house. It says, I disagree with that message. I don't think Bailey will not return her back against Damage Control when she's created that group after SummerSlam last year. Okay, so he doesn't think that Bailey will turn her back against the Damage Control at any point. Do you reckon that faction stays together long term?
It depends on if Bailey can't win the big one. I think if it gets to the point where if Damage Control is still tag team champions and Bailey keeps getting opportunity after opportunity for a women's single title and can't win, at some point that I think the story narrative has to be that they get rid of her and just turn around and say, look, you aren't good enough to be with us. Look at us, we've been tag team champions for this amount of time, and you've done nothing. You've not won anything. Every time you've had the opportunity to win a title, you've failed. And then you could possibly build a tag team match between Bailey and someone else against the rest of Damage Control. I don't know. But yeah, I think that if you was going to do it, I wouldn't mind seeing it done that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good way to do it. I mean, look, let's be fair. Every faction that gets put together more than not. I mean, most of them break up after about a year, 2 tops. It's only very rare when you see something like, say, like a New Day, for example, or an Usos, where they remain together forever. And of course, that throws up another question with the Street Profits at some point in the future. I do want to talk about Montez Ford at some point in the stream tonight because he's got this big singles opportunity coming up, Elimination Chamber. Is this a breakup moment for him as the single star? And what happens if he does take full advantage? Is him and Angelo going to be a thing of the past when come to the draft?
I hope not, because I fear for Angelo. Like, don't get me wrong, Angelo's been doing a lot in his singles matches recently to prove that he is actually still a half decent wrestler and can do a lot of stuff. But Montez is the star, and I would like to see them stay together. I think especially for Angelo's sake, you need to have a split rivalry with them two, just to give Angelo something if they break up. Because I think if you just take Montez out and have Montez become this next big thing, Angelo's just going to get lost in the shuffle, and he's going to spend half his time in catering. Unfortunately, I think those two especially need a split storyline.
Yeah, I think if you're going to do a split, definitely give it the storyline. Definitely go with one way, one with the other. Like you say, just the draft. We've seen it happen with so many teams in the past. One gets completely forgotten and pushed to the side. So fingers crossed that doesn't happen to Angelo Dawkins because he is a heck of a talent as well. Proved it. Great match with Damian Priest last night on Monday Night Raw. I do because as I watch NWA, but recently it's felt underwhelming. I do enjoy the studio-based wrestling and the talent was great. But to me, I hope some indie wrestlers would have had better stories. Your thoughts on NWA? Sadly, Noob, my answer to this is that I don't watch NWA. That's the brutal, honest truth.
I watched it for a little while when it first started up, and then they had the likes of Marty Skull turn up, and they had all these big independent names coming into it. But I have not followed it. It's unfortunately it's not had its best run of luck recently. Isn't that the one that's owned by Billy Corgan?
Yeah,
And obviously he's had a lot of things going recently as well. So it's kind of like I'd rather not watch something where someone has these kind of views, and I don't want to give someone my viewership for something who I don't believe in.
I think that's a fair point. I mean, for me, with some of the quotes that I've seen that allegedly have been made there from Billy Corgan with regards, particularly with the women's, the second women's show they were talking about and why they wouldn't do it and stuff. So yeah, working in NWA style. For me, I that's one of my main reasons for not watching it. But what I would say, to give a bit of positivity to the question, is that I do also enjoy studio-based wrestling. I think that some of it, smaller studios can create heck of great environments. It's amazing sometimes, but I'm sure those that go to indie shows, for example, know that what the buzz and the atmosphere you can create in that small environment. And one of my favorite ones to watch, which technically was studio based as well, was Lucha Underground. I absolutely used to love watching that product.
Yeah, I think for those kind of shows, the most important thing is the crowd. If you have a decent crowd, then them shows can do really well. If you just have a very dead crowd that sits there and doesn't get involved and doesn't do anything, it can really kill the atmosphere in your watching and viewing pleasure of those kinds of shows.
Absolutely. Let's say there is some great talent though that still is in NWA, and for those who do want to go and check it out, please do feel free to because hey, don't just take our word for what we have to say. Two Sweet Carl says, do you think Jay White makes his way to WWE? Of course, there were lots of rumors going around about this topic. Of course, the loser leaves Japan match, I believe, is imminent, just a few days away with Hikuleo. And there's been all sorts of rumors that WWE meant to be interested in both. How do you see this playing out?
I don't know if I told you this, but you have John Cena versus Theory night one at Mania. Cena wins the US title. Cena does open challenge night two. Jay White debuts and beats Cena for the United States Championship. Just as a shot, because I think what a big way, a massive way to make a debut is beating John Cena on your debut and winning the United States Championship. I would absolutely love it. I was really gutted that obviously Jay White's still under contract because I would love to have seen him in the Rumble. But then again, I also suggested for the Rumble that they should have done something between Finn, AJ, and Jay White, all three former leaders of the Bullet Club and stuff like that. That should be something. But unfortunately, you told me AJ's still injured, so maybe they can do something with that in the future. But yeah, have him win the US title off John Cena on night two of Mania.
I'd love to see it happen. I'd love to see it happen, but I always have the belief that I think if he goes to AEW. That's just my belief. So if he does leave New Japan, I think that he will go. He'll go with Tony Khan for the time being. But I'd love to see him in WWE. I would love to see it happen. I hope that. If I'm being brutally honest, I hope that I'm wrong. If he was to leave, I hope it would be WWE.
It's going to be down to people like Gallows and Anderson to convince him, and just because obviously they were part of Bullet Club for a while when he was there. It's going to be down to now. You don't want to go AEW, man. Just come to WWE, man. Just come. Like Triple H is in charge now. You ain't got to worry about Vince. You get paid good money, and yeah, man. Just come to WWE. So hopefully Jay White appears in WWE. That's what I'd love to see.
It would be quite cool to see. And to be fair, we get Anderson and Gallows out of catering in the meantime, because since AJ's gone, they ain't been on TV at all, and I want to see them back on my TV.
And aside from Kenny, we can get a three-way between Finn, AJ, and Jay White to see who is the top guy and the best Bullet Club leader, and Jay White goes over. I think that'd be great.
I think that'd be pretty cool. John, thank you for your comment. Checking out the stream for carrying cross events to dump Scarlett.
Do you know what? I thought about that a minute ago and I'd be like, do you know what? It's not a bad idea, but then what do you do with Scarlett? So that's the biggest problem with that.
I just feel that when you look at those two, Scarlett is the most over. Maybe that is why it's the problem. I don't know, but if it's something that a viewer actor that is working, for me, I wouldn't remove it. But that's just me.
Then maybe make Scarlett the leader. Don't have Karrion ever talk. Just make it all about Scarlett. Have Karrion be her heavy. Do you know what I mean? Just let Scarlett do all the work, or do all the mouthpiece talking, and just have Karrion as the muscle. Why not?
That'd be awesome. See that? I think that's a great idea as well. They're taking that comment there and actually using that as a creative idea. I think that'd be really fun. John, I hope you've been convinced there with that. Two Sweet Carl says, got to go. Have a good rest of the stream. NXSteve, follow you on Twitter, so I'll drop you a message after the stream. Thanks for the great time. Thank you for checking us out, and I hope you enjoyed the rest of your day. If you've got any more questions you want to throw in, probably a good time to do it now, because we're not far off from finishing the comments we've got in. So if you want to keep us going, probably best to keep it going. And also maybe hit the like button as well. That will actually help encourage other people and help spread it on across YouTube. We might get a few more people join the chat and a few more people keeping us about. And Steve, I'm holding you back.
Can we talk about my new favorite Raw superstar?
Go on.
That'd be one Rick Boogs. He last night was fantastic. He was absolutely hilarious. And I'm like, right, I'm all in on Rick Boogs now. Last week I was kind of like, you kind of look like a cheap Armored Warrior without the face paint. But his character work last night, I was like, I'm sold, man. I was like, I forgot this guy was the Old Spice guy at Mania a couple of years ago. And I forgot the great character work he did. Him and The Miz, I cannot wait to see how that plays out, because Rick Boogs is my new favorite Raw superstar at the minute. He is hilarious and I love it.
I like it. It's still taking me a bit of time at the minute. I think I'm still getting over the heartache. He's not introducing Shinsuke Nakamura to the ring anymore. But at the same time, that voice was going. The way he was doing that Nakamura every week, it was just you could tell it was going after a few months. So maybe it's the best thing for all parties. But certainly, there's a lot of potential Rick Boogs. I just hope that he doesn't. His in-ring style worries me. That I don't want him to pick up a similar injury like he had before. That does concern me. So I hope that
he needs the right opponent. Yeah. But like I said, his character work is unreal. And I will watch that guy all day long. He is so funny, man. And that's one of the most important things with wrestling is if you make me laugh, I'm sold on it. And then he's absolutely one of the best characters at the minute.
Absolutely. Eric goes on to say that Rhea winning with a bloody face was her man moment. Obviously referring to the Royal Rumble with the big win there. But I think that obviously when you count Rhea's night at the Royal Rumble, the interaction with Beth Phoenix where she was speared, she was selling that on the way to the ring as number one. You mentioned the bloody face there, and going on to still survive 29 other women to get your shot at WrestleMania. Certainly she had a very good night, and you could see with Raw last night she had the biggest pop of all of the Judgment Day members that were mentioned.
Yeah, I'm kind of gutted that it's Finn and Rhea rather than Dominic and Rhea.
Interesting.
Because I think it should be those two versus Edge, because Edge has got the biggest. I suppose he's got a grudge with all three of them, really. I suppose Finn was the one that eventually made Priest turn against him, but I think Dom and Rhea makes just more sense. But I'm well excited to see it. But yeah, Rhea, great moment at the Rumble, being the first woman to go from bell to bell. Like I said, I hope that she beats Charlotte, because I think Charlotte's owed an ass whooping at Mania for the last couple of years now, and someone needs to beat her, because she beat Asuka and stopped Asuka's undefeated run. She beat Rhea at Mania when Rhea was NXT champion. So Charlotte's owed an ass kicking from someone.
Yeah, I have to agree, and I think Rhea. I actually feel like this. I can't remember whose channel it was, so I feel like I'm doing a disservice even mentioning this out loud. But credit to whichever channel it was, saying about how Rhea should squash Charlotte. It should really be a one-sided match. It should be a statement of intent, almost like what we've seen with some other matches in WrestleMania in the past. Obviously, Sheamus, Daniel Bryan does leave a sore taste in some people's mouths. We'll probably make a very quick watch along for us one day on this channel. But at the same time, I do think if Rhea was to beat Charlotte in convincing fashion, that would really show where she was when she started to where she's come now, and to push forward then the SmackDown Women's Champion. I think that for me, that ticked a lot of boxes.
Yeah. The problem you've got to worry about then is the damage that it does to Charlotte if Rhea does squash her.
She can't be hurt, surely.
Yeah, you'd think that, but it's the kind of for me. I can automatically picture the next Friday on SmackDown. Charlotte comes out, and it just be like I can imagine there'll be some sort of taunt that the crowd will just pry on, and it would live with Charlotte forever. So I'd rather them have a good display. I think if it was someone else in the picture, yeah, I think you could do it. But I think Charlotte she's a 14-time women's world champion. There's no way you could have her losing a squash match to Rhea.
Absolutely. We have had, which we haven't mentioned, Jerry Lawler at this point. Obviously, was rushed to medical facilities yesterday. Would I be right in saying he's had another cardiac arrest? I believe he was dining with friends at the time, and sadly he's he's in medical as we speak.
First
And
I've heard about it. I didn't even hear
really,
about it.
I believe it was PW Insider. I think was the first source with this earlier today. But it's very sad news, John. Thank you for bringing it into the stream, because we obviously do want to send our get well wishes and best wishes, and hope that Jerry pulls through.
It just says here, as of this was from 2 hours ago from Brian Alvarez. Jerry Lawler was found outside his home, face down in the parking lot. A person who is in close to lawyer says it was a blood blockage to the right side of his brain. So apparently it was a stroke. So hopefully speedy recovery for Jerry Lawler.
Fingers crossed. We do send our best wishes and get well wishes very quickly. And obviously, thoughts are with everyone at this particular time. But John, thank you for bringing it to our attention in the stream. And we wish him all the very, very best. Shahid saying, will Cody Rhodes' nightmare bring the undisputed title to Raw after he beats Roman Reigns at the greatest stage of them all, WrestleMania? Initially, if Cody does do it, which at the start of the stream, for those who haven't seen it, God will give it to you. He said we think Cody's going to do it. Obviously, he would bring both titles initially to Monday Night Raw. Cody would be everywhere until if WWE decides to split those championships. So I think that's an easy answer for yes.
Yeah, it's just we were saying it earlier. They need to split them. Really, I'm surprised they didn't make the story all about that WWE Championship, and then they could have had Roman defend the other one against Sami. So, like I said, they need to do something now, because now you're going to have SmackDown with no champion unless Cody's going to make double the appearances. But he hasn't done double appearances so far since his return. So we'll wait and see what happens with that one.
Maybe after Elimination Chamber, maybe they just might start. We'll have to wait and see. I would not be surprised. Cody, very dedicated to the cause. But also someone's always dedicated to the cause is C Nation Dog. Thank you for checking out the stream. It's always good to have you on board. Says, I have a bold prediction. I have Seth freaking Rollins winning the Elimination Chamber match to win the United States title. I will probably be wrong, but I am taking the risk. And do you know what? Thank you for sharing that prediction with us. Sometimes you got to go bold. You got to go bold or go home. And C Nation, we like that you go bold. And hope for you that prediction does work out. I think we should reserve our predictions. We give one or two of them away already on this. We'll make sure that you want to at least see our Elimination Chamber prediction stream, which will probably be at the start of next week. Eric Douglas says, do you know how much longer Will Ospreay has on his New Japan contract? I think we'll get NXSteve Googling once again for us now, because the honest answer for me is I don't actually know how long he's got on the contract. But if
last I heard, he was still contracted till the end of the year. So I'm just going to double check that.
I want to say that I think he did say in an interview that it was another 2024 is ringing in my head for some reason, but maybe it's something that we can look up and
Oh,
find
here
out
it is.
for you.
Yeah, early 2024. He said his deal was up.
There you go.
That's
So
what he
I'll
said himself. So
be interested to see what happens. But he does love New Japan. He loves working in Japan. He's made that very clear before. And I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed. Obviously, he did a picture this week. He said he loved the picture. We're finally getting back to normal. Obviously, in Japan, they've not been allowed to be so vocal in the crowds and
yeah,
stuff. So the fact they can do that again, you can see for him, really feels like he's getting that buzz and that drive again of like we're back to how it should be. He says that the Japanese fan base is very passionate. So I wouldn't be surprised if he stayed put. But of course, I wouldn't complain if I got to see him on my TV set every week, whether it was Raw, SmackDown, or AEW.
I don't think his style would suit WWE at all. I think if you brought him in and just purely had him in NXT for 2 years as a short run, I'd be okay with that because I think there's a lot of nice. Even then, I think that would only have worked maybe 2019 when you had the likes of Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Adam Cole on NXT. I don't think his style honestly suits WWE, and I think he would be better off staying in AEW.
Interesting. Well, do you know what? I think he would be better suited for AEW of two companies.
Hmm.
But like you said there, obviously, when you look at the likes of Ricochet, it's a bit of a warm push, a bit more like Leicester. He seems to have something going on at least all the time at the moment, Ricochet. But yeah, I get completely what you mean when you say that. Will Ospreay suffer the same fate if he was to come to WWE? C Nation says Karrion Kross needs Scarlett. Do you remember his first main roster run? We do. I mean, thankfully Vince isn't making the calls anymore, but certainly I remember that mask was questionable. So yeah, he does need Scarlett. I would agree. Nubico says, do you think Io Sky teaming up with Asuka if Damage Control do break up? I'm going to say no, just because I think that they will feud at some point. I think that they've built the foundation for that match. They've proclaimed it as a dream match. I think that Asuka and Io Sky will happen at some point.
Yeah, I'd like to see her more branch out as a single star again. I think I didn't get enough of her singles run when she was in NXT. I thought she was really good, and hopefully, with how main roster's booked, we just get more of her on TV in the singles capacity.
Yes, fingers crossed indeed. C Nation says that I also think that Logan Paul fighting for the United States title will get a lot of attention on it. John Cena would too. But he doesn't need to challenge for mid card titles at this point in his career. Yeah, I do agree. I mean, John Cena doesn't need to challenge for any title in his career. He is the attraction himself, but so is Logan Paul. But I think though, like you said there, either way, either name, it brings attention to the United States Championship. Couldn't it be a bad thing? Could it?
What more of a high-profile match could you not have if you was to have John Cena versus Logan Paul for the United States Championship? That would, like I say, it's going to draw numbers in, man. That's what Logan Paul was brought in to do.
Absolutely, and I think that if we can predict, it'll be Seth Rollins at this point against Logan Paul. That certainly would be a big match for WrestleMania. Certainly would be a lot of eyes on the prize. And like you said, if C Nation was right with his prediction and Seth won that United States title, that would be a good and a fun way to go. And like you said, there's no lose for the US title in that way. Also good to see Lita return. I totally agree. One thing we didn't mention earlier, of course, that was supposed to be at Raw Triple X Raw 30. So Lita getting her return here. Obviously, it was meant to be a couple of weeks ago, but that makes me wonder if it is a one and done at the same time. As much as I would like to see a tag team match or a 6-woman tag team match at Elimination Chamber, do you reckon that there will be more to Lita in WWE, or do you reckon that this was just a one-time deal?
I'd like to see more of it. Like I said, I wouldn't be against the idea of a 6-person tag match that was mentioned, like you said earlier. I'm just trying to think that if you were going to do it for Chamber, I mean, what's Chamber lining up? I think Chamber's got, 5 matches already? And I think 3 of them are Chamber matches. So it's going to be, I'd find it very hard to get it on that show. Maybe at Mania, possibly. I think that's a good spot to put Becky in. Is about Becky and those 6 together in a match. I think it's just its biggest stage of the year. It's just a fan service, and it's a couple of Hall of Famers on TV again.
Absolutely, indeed. There, we're going to go with our last few comments, and then we shall wrap up the stream for today. Eric says, "Give Boogs a mid-card title, please." I think that's music to NXSteve's ears. Therefore, that one there. Sinister Dog actually asking why did they split Shinsuke Nakamura and Rick Boogs? They were perfect together. Now Shinsuke Nakamura doesn't have a mouthpiece. He also doesn't have TV time. I don't remember the last time I've seen Nakamura on my TV set.
Probably when he got beaten up by Roman Reigns when he come out to challenge Roman Reigns for the Undisputed Universal Championship, and then Roman squashed him right there and then, and we never saw him again. So at some point, he would have been great for a Rumble return, but I don't know. You're probably going to be after Mania now, I would imagine.
I mean, I'm surprised they broke them up. I'm surprised they didn't do so for the tag team division. Obviously, they're trying to push more tag teams at this particular moment, but perhaps they have a bigger plan for Boogs. Obviously, NXT, they're saying already he's hit the heights on Raw for him, and what we'd like to know, has he hit the heights for everybody else? Feel free to let us know if you are feeling it or not. Shade saying, please hear me out. Will Nightmare bring the Undisputed title to Raw? Make the difference? Will it make a difference after WrestleMania 39? Well, it depends what you mean by difference, really, because obviously a champion that is always present obviously will help with numbers. Like you said earlier in the stream, NXT, you said like the idea that more bums will be in seats, more people will be tuning in because that is the champion, that is the main guy. And someone that has defeated Roman Reigns after that full time surely will go to a higher level than what they were before.
The thing that they would have, the only worry they would have is if Cody was to win, who would be his first challenger? Because if it's not someone of a big enough name or prestige, then maybe it would feel a little lackluster. But so you would need to make sure that the next person to fight Cody, if Cody wins, is the right person that is going to like retain the viewership, really. But yeah, like I said earlier, you should just get more people on the product to know that you're going to see your champ every week. It's what it's there to do.
Absolutely, that is literally what it is. That's the name of the game, ultimately. Ed Fry says he can't stick around, but he hopes to have a great stream. Thank you very much, Ed, for stopping by. We do appreciate you and everybody who has been stopping by. This will be our last comment then for the stream. Says, please hear me out. Last night on Raw, White and Pierce did not get involvement in NXT talent being coming up to the main roster. I guess he's fit them in spots now between now and WrestleMania. If someone he comes from NXT to Monday Night Raw or was to be on SmackDown on Friday, yes, they are coming in a WrestleMania season, but you've got to find a place for them on that card. It's going to be hard to find a space on WrestleMania this year. There's so much talent now on Raw and SmackDown.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very surprised that we didn't get the likes of Cameron Grimes come up. I think he don't know what he's been doing in NXT, but he just seems to be done with now. He's probably going to be moving up to the new to the main roster now. I'm trying to think if there's someone else in there. I think they're still waiting for a couple of names to come back, but yeah, like you said, it's just hard to find. Like they're pretty much set. They pretty much have their Mania card set out now. They probably just need to get to the point now where they build everything up for the massive payoff at Mania. And I think trying to introduce someone with probably 8 weeks left before, or no, probably about 12 weeks left before Mania or whenever it is. I'm not too sure, but yeah, I just think it's too short of a time to introduce someone new. But I imagine the Raw after Mania will probably have a lot more talent for her debut.
I agree. I think obviously now Triple H with in charge of the pencil, his first Mania, first Raw after Mania, first SmackDown after Mania. I think we can expect some new faces to come in after Mania. And I think the draft will be pushed forward, and I think it'll be now actually where it'll be done in April, May time again, rather than being pushed in October with those sort of season premieres that they were doing under the latter years of Vince McMahon. But thank you very much, everyone that has been watching the stream today. We really do appreciate you all with your questions, with your comments, with your likes, with your shares. We really do appreciate it as always. If you have enjoyed this video, you haven't done it already, please consider hitting the like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel here to SCW. We are on the road to WrestleMania. Of course, we're going to take a little pit stop to the Elimination Chamber. Before then, we'll look to do some more content between now and then. Of course, predictions will be coming in the next week as well. If you're also into AEW and Impact Wrestling, not so much talk on them this evening, but of course, content does come on this channel as well. Before I do leave today, though, I want to say a big thank you as always, NXT. It's been an absolute pleasure as always to have you on this channel.
As always, it's always a pleasure to be on the channel with you, Steve, and look forward to the next one.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to setting something up again very, very soon. But yeah, so basically the answer of the question that you've seen at the start of this video, if you're clicking on it, if you haven't seen the full detail, go back to the start. But will Cody Rhodes defeat Roman Reigns to become the undisputed WWE Universal Champion at WrestleMania 39? NXT was nodding, and I agree. We both said a resounding yes. Take care, and thanks for watching.